Let's start with the hoe, I suppose.
Hey,
A runner-up for best looking in the Dabbleverse at the Dookies. Keanu Thompson talked a little bit about Aaron Imholte. I was on This Little Piggy and we discussed it, but I want to break down a couple of these clips because this is where I'm like, this is the part that like weirds me out and kind of grosses me out to dissect, but I'm also interested in it. So Keanu piques my interest with a video she made earlier this week.
Yeah, I watched that whole episode. You were making like a stinky face for half the episode. Just like, I don't know if we should be talking about this.
Not even should be talking about it or not. It's just like I like goofing on stuff, and then when we're like, do you think Aaron Googled cuck porn right after looking at kiwi farms? I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't have a take on it. I don't know if he did or not. Like,
all right, this one is called Nick and April.
Okay.
I'm just glad to talk to her. That's all. That's all. But the gentleman and his wife that she is living next door to, and I really don't know them, it would be one Nick Rekieta, right? Who I have always
so dramatic.
Not had very kind words to say about, but I'm for if somebody's in love or what have you, I try and bite my tongue.
That's kind of the upsetting thing where it's like, oh, April's in love with this guy. He's fucking married. Like, you not see how that's gonna end?
It's just really, it's an indictment of Aaron's manhood, really. Like, she ran to this guy, and now she's in love with this guy. What did you do, Aaron? What did you do?
It's a tale as old as time. Like, he's going to stick with the mother of his kids, probably.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, he's selling the house she lives in, and, well, we'll get to what else is going on there. But, like, she lives in their guest house. He's going to stick with the lady in the main house, I think.
Yeah. Welcome to side piecedom. Like, this thing is, this side piece life has lived forever. Go talk to some old mob wives.
This is a trend. And again, like, I didn't realize I had, like, a face on This Little Piggy. I didn't mean to. Because I don't think I'm above any of this. I'm interested in all of it. But, like, I watch videos like this, and I'm like, what's going on here? Why is this all so serious? This was, like, people goofing on each other online. And now it's this. Like, this is a tragedy.
It's also why Carl's the best, because he's been joking on Stuttering John for so many years, and it's still fun. Eventually, when you joke on people for too long, you start getting in serious personal stuff. And, like, Melton pulled out receipts for, like, he didn't really do it, but, like, restaurants and stuff. And you were just looking at it like, what, where do I take this?
Right. Well, what are we doing? Let's make fun of the goal, which we're getting to, by the way. We have a goal to hit. I will say,
like, I'm here for the gold only.
Thank you to Patrick Melton, because I watched a little bit of his Thursday show, and I was like, maybe he's not doing the goal anymore. Patrick said, you're going to want to stick with it. And boy, do we have some good goaling to get to today. So stick with us.
Yeah, it just gets personal, is all I'm saying. And when it gets personal, the fun stops,
Yeah, and then it seems like you're rooting for or against Aaron and for or against Nick Rekieta. It's like, I'm not rooting for or against Stuttering John. I think it's funny that he did a show like we just broke down. Like, that's funny to me. I'm not like, oh, fuck. And I think Patrick was getting a lot of shit where people are like, so you're for Nick Rekieta? And I think Patrick's point was like, no, he just helped me goof on the guy I like goofing on, So it all gets very serious, and people think you've taken sides in some weird way, and I don't know, it weirds me out at times. But like I said, I'm interested in it, so I'm just as bad as anyone else.
Yeah, you just keep doing you, Mike. You don't have to fall into the trap that everyone else does.
It takes a lot for somebody to make me kind of see where the toe is coming from. Do you understand? Do you understand? If you know, you know.
I do. I actually do understand what she's saying, and it's like Nick Rekieta also seems like kind of a bad guy. Like, I'm not like rooting again. I'm not rooting for or against either of them. I don't necessarily believe everything Nick Rekieta says. I do think because of his legal background, he's smart enough to not say certain things unless he knows he can say them. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's smart enough to navigate some of those waters, but also maybe not. Maybe he's irresponsible. I don't really know. He seems irresponsible in his personal life, so I don't know if he's like that online. But it is like there are moments where I'm like, I enjoy goofing on Aaron as much as anyone, but like it is tragic what happened to him. Like he went into someone's, if you just observe it on the surface, you're like, he went into someone's house with his wife and walked out without her. Yeah. And now that's all been very public. But then you listen to Aaron's show and it's like, well, he's the reason we all know about it. He's the reason we're talking about it in this way. It's like, so he is doing it to himself, which I think opens him up to get goofed on and takes away the ability to feel bad for him.
Yeah, it's quite Shakespearean, and then he feels like he's part of something. I'm part of it. I'm the main character, but it's a terrible story.
Yes,
congratulations. It's yours.
Yeah.
His fucking mind, as if it weren't already fucking lost. And all he's gonna do is drag her down with him, and it's a very difficult thing to say to somebody that's in love with somebody, right?
It's so crazy to me.
But at some point you do have to go. And I told her, we've been talking on the phone at length. And I said, I'm not saying this man can't get his shit together. But do you think he has his shit together? Also, you're living in the house that is for sale on his property.
You see what I mean? We're all too
She's
involved.
A kind soul.
And by we all, I'm speaking
April.
Like the royal we. Like Keanu is having this personal conversation with April where she's like, you're living in this guy's, and then just going on the internet and saying it. That's to me what's crazy and like gross, where I'm like, oh God, this is weird. Like Keanu's supposed like playing this like she's trying to be a friend. It's like, she talked about how she'd never expose April's personal information. And then the first conversation they have, she's like, I got to tell you about this fucking Nick Rekieta guy. The only like redeeming possibility for this is if Keanu's like, okay, April's lost as far as me talking to her. Maybe if I do it on the internet, it'll knock some sense into her. But I can't imagine that that's the best course of action. If you were having an intervention for someone, I can't imagine any expert being like, you know where you should do it is on YouTube. Yeah. And you should have, who clipped this? Is it My Lost Interest?
It's My Lost Interest, yeah, I was going to mention. Thank you, My Lost Interest.
Shout out to My Lost Interest. I don't think the therapist would be like, you should have My Lost Interest clip the best parts of it and have people react to it, you know?
I remember, do you remember like about a year ago when there was gunfire outside of her? Strange things seem to happen around her, around content that seem a little staged, maybe? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Like
I don't know enough about her.
So she likes the outrageous stuff. She comes on and like, if I can talk about my friends and their weird sexual deviance, I'll do it. You know, so it's just part of content.
Right.
I mean, you know, anything to get away from Gina.
April Imholte, kind soul, much like me. But sometimes you need a little bit of tough love.
She did this weird tough love would be talking to her about this, not us.
Right.
You know, like that's what grossed me out about this whole thing.
Yep.
I don't give a fuck about him or his wife, who I don't know. I don't know either of them, but he's a monster and an idiot.
Okay.
And I hate that she's sitting there without internet for 6 fucking months. Okay.
But I don't know. April's an adult. Like, if I'm in a house without internet for 6 months, it's my fault, right? Like, I don't like she's an adult. If this guy's abusive to her and like treats her poorly, then fuck him. But she's also 30 years old or 29 years old, however old she. Like, she's an adult that could choose her living situation. She can go get a job if she wants one. She can go rent an apartment. Like, these are not like. There's a weird thing with women where you have to kind of you're like, hey, she's a victim of this abusive situation. Yeah, that's terrible. She should leave it. You know, like as far as we know, there's no physical abuse happening anymore. Which, by the way, that was the other thing that I think people glossed over is like Nick Rekieta said that Aaron did in fact physically abuse April. That's according to April. So that's where this all gets gross because people are like, he ate cum, and I'm like, there's so much worse happening here that we're ignoring.
Right, and we got to get John and this lady together so we can do a bill paying class. Like, these grown adults that don't know how to pay their bills, turn their internet or lights on.
Right, let's sit John and April down and like, okay, you need internet and electricity. That's lesson 1.
Yes.
She said, I finally got internet. I said, what did you do before that, April? She was like, I would just watch TV on my phone.
Oh, she's an idiot.
And wait for Nick to text me.
But how did she do that without internet?
He gave me a mobile hotspot that just worked for him. I mean, it sounds like she was kept in a cage, sort of, but who knows what the fuck happened with these. They're embarrassment to Big Ten country, honestly.
I just wait for the guy to say the wife is out of the house. Let's fuck.
Yeah,
and I'm in love with that man. It's like, well, okay, you know, that person might be a victim, but like she can fucking walk out of the house and rent an apartment somewhere, you know?
Just another indictment on Aaron, though. Imagine how bad he was that this was a better alternative.
This was preferable.
Living in a dark room with no internet was better than Aaron.
I'm free.
This was called Bad Situation.
It does seem like one.
Yes. It does seem like
emotional and sort of like bizarro abuse where I want you to be my side piece and live in my, I don't know, what shall we call it, a guest house. And also do all of your court things from my studio where everyone knows that you're there. Everybody online knows that's where Nick's studio is. And that's the only
listen
time
to her just like shitting on her friend to us. You know what I mean? Where it's like, that's one thing if you actually do it with a group of friends, where like you have this conversation with April privately, and then your other mutual friends, you're like, I couldn't believe it. She just sits in a room and waits for Nick to text her. She seems like helpless, blah, blah, blah. That's one thing if you do it with friends in private. April might be a little annoyed if she heard you talking like that, but it's the people who care about you. You're having this conversation with fucking Citizen M, Doomspayer, like these people that clip and like make fun of Aaron with it. So is that the best course of action, to be helping your supposed friend April? And then like Keanu and Gino go right back to being friends with Aaron. So it's all like very gross. The steel toe side of things is more interesting to me than the Stuttering John side of things. But it's also like grosser and more toxic, I think.
That's why there is baby.
John only threatens legal action. They are actually getting into legal trouble every week.
Yes, and also, Keanu, you're talking to potential jurors. So, you know, there's that, too. You're telling all these stories.
Yes, all these people involved have pending legal action.
Yes, and her best friend said this online. You don't think prosecution can take all this? And good friends. Yeah,
right. This is someone that claims to be close to you. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Lets you come over unless Kayla's out of the house. And then he's like, yeah, pop on by. That no bueno. No bueno.
Now that caught, like, again, Keanu saying that, maybe Kayla doesn't know that Nick does that. That could cause strife in this already tense living situation, you know? So, like, you're just fucking lighting this match and walking away and being like, well, whatever happens, happens, to a supposed friend of yours.
Bitch be doxing.
Yeah.
So, you know, alleged. The thing that she told me was so annoying to me that he blamed her for. He said, do you know when somebody says it's not your fault, but it means it's your fault? Okay. The thing that she told me that he blamed her for was so heinous and so repulsive to me. And she was crying her eyes out and so fucking. This is not a good man. And I don't think that he has any chance of being one unless he. Fuck. I don't know what he needs to do.
Well, then it's good to just haphazardly leap into this then. If you have no solution for it. Hey, this man seems abusive and off the rails and crazy. I'm just going to talk about him online and with no end game or solution or anything.
And then also drop a salacious, and the thing he told her to do. Oh my God, people, if you only knew this one thing that he accused her of doing.
I think she does get there eventually. But she's teasing like a good broadcaster.
I haven't watched this, but my guess is he accused her of lacing the kids' food with drugs. So that's my guess.
You're saying it would have to be that bad?
See how dirty we are when we're in this gross universe?
April is living next door in a house that he's selling, that he owns. and finally just got internet and doesn't even know that it's probably not a good idea to do your court cases from his home.
She keeps talking about April in this way, like probably doesn't know. Like she's an adult. She didn't seem like, I've seen clips of her on Aaron's show. She didn't seem retarded. Like I mean, I'm sure people think she's dumb or whatever, but she seemed like a functioning human being.
She seemed young.
Sure, she is young, but she knows that living in an empty house that's for sale, she's cognitively able to decipher that is not a good situation to be in. Like you're not like, oh, the poor thing. She doesn't know that. That's such a condescending way to talk about someone. And this is a friend of hers.
They talk about her like in a binary situation where like either she has to do this or goes back to the factory. Like her life is either going back home and working in the factory or living in the house as a side piece. And she has to make a choice of those two things. And
yes.
You know what's not in that decision tree? Aaron. It's worse than a factory and it's worse than a side piece.
And by the way, I know I started this by saying I don't like the serious talk and then had a very serious talk. We're getting to we're going to have some fun. I just found, again, I found this interesting, so I wanted to talk about it quickly.
Yeah, we're getting to the kids' foods and the drugs. It's coming up.
He didn't have internet, so that's all. So she had no idea. She's like, well, what? I didn't even know that it was a bad look to be.
No rules, no legal mumbo jumbo. I'm just a silly girl. I don't know anything. It's like, no, she's a fucking adult.
Counter proposal. She knew it was horrible and terrible and didn't want the internet because she was going to see how horrible and terrible it was.
Yes.
By the way, I'm canceling my internet. Now what are you going to do, trolls? I can't see you.
My court things. I'm like, yeah, it's a bad look. What does he tell you? Nothing, apparently. He just lets you sit next door.
Okay, now we're up to drug test.
Let's okay, you want to skip this? I can just summarize it.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've already spent too much time on Keanu, I think. But basically she accuses Nick of having blaming April for missing his drug test. And then they had some Twitter war. So April goes to Twitter and says everything Keanu said, basically Keanu misunderstood it. She misinterpreted what I was saying. She's wrong. And then Keanu goes after her on Twitter. And it's just like, you two are not friends. These are not people you should be mixed up. Like the Imholtes and the Rekietas were internet friends. Gino and Keanu and the Imholtes were internet friends. That's how they got in this mess. Is like, if you go back and listen to April and Aaron talk about the Rekietas and Gino and Keanu and Chrissy Mayer was involved for a little while. They talk about them like they're lifelong friends. Like, oh, do you think when we're older, we're all going to get a house together? And like literally like that. Like those are the kind of, I watched Real Media Player put a great compilation together of it where they're like, when we're all living in the same place together, you can cook breakfast and I'll do the cleaning. Like they have this whole plan with these people for the rest of their lives. And it's like, these are people you met online 6 months ago. Why are you so attached to them? It's so weird to watch play out and frankly, gross. So
we're not all going to live together, Mike? I can cancel the one-bedroom house.
Well, that I don't know. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I don't know that yet.
Go to blindmike.net for everything Blind Mike. Look at me. I did it. Kragers did it.